Yo guys, what is up? Max for Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over the new best experience farm after patch 1.1.1. Now, I have done a ton of Nightmare Dungeon testing. We've basically just been running Nightmare Dungeons all day, and what I found is some really ridiculous XP farms. Now, if you did not know, in patch 1.1.1, they upped the monster density in Helltides and Nightmare Dungeons. Now, this is a big buff to Nightmare density, or enemy density, but it's not the same across dungeons. Some dungeons that were already good experience and had a ton of enemies didn't get the same amount of love as some of the other dungeons that already had less enemies. And so what I wanted to test is if the same S tier dungeons were still the best dungeons to run, or if there was new dungeons that are really good. And what I found is a new dungeon that I think everyone is going to be running. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. So for this video, we're going to be going over the top 5 best dungeons for experience farming. Now, I did my testing for this with a friend. I'm currently level 100 on my druid, so I can't calculate proper experience per hour. So I was having someone sit at the front of the dungeon and basically record the time and the experience. And so that is why in the footage that you're going to see, there is another player with me. So to start us off, at our number 5 spot is Nostrava Deepwood. This was a fantastic dungeon beforehand. With the density changes, it feels really good. There's a ton of tree elites, and when I was running it, I was getting around 30 million experience an hour, like without any like potion buffs or anything like that. All of these XP values are without potion buffs. Tied for our number 3 and 4 spots is Hoarfrost Demise and Uldr's Cave. Now, Hoarfrost Demise gives less experience as a dungeon than Uldr's Cave does. However, I was able to run Hoarfrost Demise in sub 2 minutes, and so running it so quickly, and there's a ton more enemies in there, felt really good. In Hoarfrost, I was getting 34 million experience an hour. Uldr's Cave does have more enemies. It doesn't feel quite as noticeable as a lot of these other dungeons. However, Uldr's Cave was already one of the best farms prior, and that was also giving me about 34 million experience an hour. At our number 2 spot, with just an absurd amount of density, even more so than it was before, is Surrat's Lair. I didn't think this dungeon could get any better. It is very tricky with the amount of monsters in it right now. They will destroy you with all of their poison damage on higher tiers. There's just so much poison damage now because there's even more enemies. But Surrat's was giving me 36 million experience an hour. It's a fast dungeon to run. It's got a good layout, tons of elites, and this is kind of the it's still one of the best. It's not the best dungeon anymore, though, when we get to our number 1 spot. And at our number 1 spot, with 60 million experience an hour, is the Domain Tunnels, or I'm dubbing them the Dopamine Tunnels. This is a clip of us running it and my reaction to running it right now. Holy. Okay, all right, I see ya. As you can see, the monster density is absurd. The amount of enemies in it is crazy. You can run this as a group for a ton of experience and blast it. Solo, it's totally fine, and you can run all the way through the end of the dungeon and get tons and tons of experience. For our 60 million an hour, what I found to be the best, and you can do this if you're in a group and you're resetting it, is clearing out basically the entire first section of the dungeon. There are so many enemies, and the issue with this dungeon that I was finding that was making it slower once we found out how much experience is actually in it is that you need to interact and save these prisoners. And with the amount of enemies in the dungeon, it just didn't feel like I could ever interact with them because I would kill an entire screen of enemies and then more enemies would show up, and then I'd have to keep interacting with the prisoner. So what I found is I was clearing, just blasting through the original, like the first part of it, not freeing the prisoners, and that was getting me about 1 million experience a minute. 1 million experience a minute. It would take me a minute to clear the first part of it, and then we could just reset it, load back in, blast through the first part of it, and then reset it. Obviously, this wouldn't earn you sigil experience, but in terms of power leveling and leveling fast, there is simply not even anything that comes close to the amount of experience that this is giving right now. This is by far and away the number 1 experience farm. It is absurd right now. Accounting for logging in and logging out times, you're still sitting at around close to 50 million experience an hour in these tunnels. So yeah, this is the new like #1 farm. If you're looking to level up quickly and efficiently, definitely make sure to check it out. I do recommend strongly that you run these as a nightmare dungeon. That's where you're going to earn this amount of experience. If you're not running it as a nightmare dungeon, you're just not going to earn this amount of XP. And you can find this dungeon in Saragar. Up at the top to the left of Korbach is the domain or dopamine tunnels. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. This is the little document that I was using. I found cons at number 6, Immortal Emanation at 7, and number 8 was Mercy's Reach. And this is a 31-page document of just testing experience values that I keep track of. So yeah, guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Peace.